It's 4:19 on the 14th of November 2025. In the dark waters east of the Spratly Islands, the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group suddenly sees the radar picture explode. Dozens of unknown tracks bloom on the screens, some high, some skimming low. Alarms erupt across the ship. Red lights flash in narrow passageways as sailors sprint to battle stations, half-dressed, heart rates spiking. Outside on the flight deck, the night sky is cut by thin, sharp flashes on the horizon. Chinese anti-ship missiles already inbound from 3 directions. There is no radio warning, no negotiation, no time to talk strategy. The Combat Information Center snaps into a hard-practiced rhythm. Officers shout ranges and bearings. Weapons teams wait for the order to fire. The captain knows that in the next few minutes, more than 40 missiles and the threat of ballistic carrier-killer strikes will test every layer of the ship's defenses. If they fail, the world's newest U.S. carrier could vanish beneath the waves before sunrise. And somewhere in that black water, Chinese warships and submarines are already lining up their next salvo. In the waters east of the Spratly Islands, the shipping lanes beneath the Gerald R. Ford are quiet but critical. Tankers and container ships pass here every day, carrying fuel, food, and electronics that end up in American homes, stores, and bases across the Pacific. Most days, no one thinks about this sea. Tonight, every crate and every barrel riding these waves depends on one carrier strike group staying alive. For months, Chinese destroyers and cruisers from the South Sea Fleet have edged closer, running parallel courses, lighting up targeting radars, and flying drones along U.S. routes. Each move came with a thin, legal-sounding message about sovereignty and security. Now, with more than 40 anti-ship missiles and follow-on DF-21D ballistic shots arcing in, the mask is off. This is a test. Can China push a U.S. carrier out of the South China Sea by sheer pressure and fear? If the Ford is hit or forced to flee, the damage will not be just steel and fuel. Global trade could slow as shippers reroute, insurance rates spike, and companies hesitate to send crews through a contested zone. Allies from Japan to Australia will wonder whether American power at sea is still real or just a story from another era. For the sailors on board, the stakes are both huge and painfully personal. Some have kids who play with toys shipped through these waters, spouses working in ports that rely on this traffic, or parents who remember earlier Pacific wars. Their objective tonight is simple to say and hard to do. Keep the carrier in the fight, keep the sea lanes open, and show that ballistic carrier killers and massed missile salvos can be beaten. As this clash unfolds, press 1 if you believe the U.S. should stand firm and hold the line here, or 9 if you think China's challenge will only grow stronger after this battle. 4:21. The first detailed picture of the attack forms on the Ford screens. More than 40 Chinese missiles, YJ-21 diving from high arcs, and YJ-18 racing low over the water are closing in from 3 directions. The command team has seconds, not minutes. The air defense officer gives the first call. Long-range intercepts first. Fire SM-6. Aboard Lake Champlain, vertical launch cells open. Twin plumes rise as SM-6 roar upward, guided by the Ford's Aegis network. Each shot buys distance precious seconds in a layered defense. Shiloh fires SM-3 toward the higher ballistic signatures, trying to thin the pack before it drops lower. On the Ford, the deck trembles as nearby ships launch salvo after salvo. Inside CIC, the crew slips into a rhythm drilled in countless simulations. Controllers track angles, speeds, and shifting formations. Growlers overhead jam Chinese seekers, throwing noise into their guidance. It won't stop them, but even slight confusion can turn a hit into a clean intercept. 2 F-35C race in, linking their sensors into the group. They paint targets and feed updated bearings back to the cruisers. In this moment, the jets act less like attackers and more like scouts sharpening the fleet's vision. The first interceptions flash, high brief bursts, swallowed by darkness. On deck, sailors see distant blossoms, but not all missiles fall. Low-flying YJ-18 slip under the upper layer, hugging the sea to cut radar returns. Others shift course mid-flight, searching for seams in the defense. The pressure tightens. The long-range layer works, but the next phases will be harsher. The closer the threat, the slimmer the reaction window. Radios stay tight. Orders stay short. Every sailor knows this is only the opening exchange, and whatever survives this first cut will decide whether the next minutes become chaos or control. For a moment, the room feels smaller, the air thicker. Every blink a possible lost cue. Status boards glow with red and amber symbols as techs call out tiny course tweaks and fresh ranges, trying to stay one step ahead of the swarm. Someone grips the edge of a console so hard their knuckles turn white. No one talks about fear. They just ride the wave of contacts and hope the wall holds. The pressure tightens. The long-range layer works, but the next phases will be harsher. The closer the threat, the slimmer the reaction window. Radios stay tight. Orders stay short. Every sailor knows this is only the opening exchange, and whatever survives this first cut will decide whether the next minutes become chaos or control. For a moment, the room feels smaller, the air thicker. Every blink a possible lost cue. Status boards glow with red and amber symbols as techs call out tiny course tweaks and fresh ranges, trying to stay one step ahead of the swarm. Someone grips the edge of a console so hard their knuckles turn white. No one talks about fear. They just ride the wave of contacts and hope the wall holds. Lake Champlain fires another spread, but the missiles are now too low for clean high-altitude shots. The job shifts to the medium layer. ESSM bursts from their canisters, chasing the sea skimmers as they weave along the waterline. Some connect, throwing plumes of spray upward. Others detonate just behind, close but not enough. The next wave closes fast. The missiles that slip through the long-range layer now roar in low, scattering across the surface like predators testing the final defenses. The Ford turns a few degrees to port, tightening its profile and forcing the incoming tracks into narrower angles. The crew feels the shift small, but crucial for buying milliseconds. Then new contacts appear, small, fast drones rushing the formation, likely decoys or sensor relays. Their wakes slash across the radar picture, forcing escorts to split their focus. One misread here could open the door for the remaining missiles. The Ford's EW teams strike back, flooding the spectrum with jamming to choke both drone links and missile seekers. A low rumble moves through the hull as the ship accelerates, throwing off more turbulence to weaken the incoming tracks. Still, the missiles keep pressing, relentless. To the crew, tension turns physical. Every vibration feels like the ship fighting alongside them. With the chaos tightening, one question rises naturally from the clash. Which side is adapting faster, US defenses or China's layered attack? If you're watching this unfold, press 1 if you believe the Ford's shifting tactics will hold, or 9 if you think the attackers are gaining the edge. Just as the defense settles into a rhythm, something unusual appears at the edge of the radar. Small, fast, irregular blips that don't match any known missile profile. At first they look like clutter, the kind operators usually filter out. But within moments the shapes clarify. A swarm of low, near-silent surface drones racing across the waves, hidden by sea clutter and moving too unpredictably to ignore. They aren't meant to sink a carrier. Their purpose is to overload attention. Each drone forces a choice, engage or hold fire right as the next phase of the attack arrives. Above them, fresh YJ-21 signatures drop into view, angled steep and coordinated to strike while the formation's focus is split. It's a layered tactic. Drown the picture with tiny targets, then push real threats through the confusion. The escorts shift quickly, sensors and guns sweeping down toward the waterline. But the drones twist sharply, reacting as if guided in real time. Missiles would be wasteful, yet letting them close risks blinding the fleet. The Ford brings its directed energy weapons online. Narrow beams cut across the surface, snapping small bursts of spray as the swarm begins to thin. Then the true twist reveals itself. A cluster of missiles previously masked by sea clutter rises into clean radar view, kept low on purpose, hiding beneath the waves until the chaos peaks. Now they surge forward at high speed, spaced just far enough apart to stress every layer of the formation's defenses. Inside CIC, voices tighten to short, precise calls. No panic, just a faster rhythm. A shift into the mode drilled endlessly for moments exactly like this. The system pushes new firing solutions to the escorts, and the crew leans into the surge of decisions, knowing this sudden wave is the kind designed to break even a seasoned battle group. The hidden missiles close fast, too fast for hesitation. The Ford CIC jumps to its highest battle rhythm, consoles glowing with red priority markers. The ship leans into a hard turn, narrowing its profile while the escorts shift to form a tighter shield. On the horizon, the first low-riding missile breaks free of the clutter, its wake barely visible against the dark sea. Close, in layer engage. ESSMs streak out from the escorts, bright arcs cutting across the night. Some hit cleanly, bursting into spray and shards. Others miss by narrow margins, forcing controllers to update firing solutions in real time and squeeze every bit of performance out of the network. The Ford's last layers come alive. CIWS batteries spin up with a rising metallic whine before erupting into walls of tracers. One incoming missile disintegrates mid-air. Another dives dangerously close, forcing a second CIWS to fire so violently the deck trembles. Crew members on deck brace themselves as a missile streaks overhead, missing by what feels like feet, before an escort's laser sears it apart and drops it into the water in a boiling flash. Then comes the final threat, one missile flying alone, low, steady, and stripped of theatrics. CIC isolates it instantly. Hardened guidance, resistant to jamming, built for the last stretch of the kill chain. On the big display, its track line pushes straight toward the carrier symbol, with no wobble, no drift, like a blade coming down. The commander gives the order. CIWS and laser simultaneous. The ship turns sharply, gear rattling across the deck, and a few crew members grabbing for handholds. The laser strikes first, hitting the nose cone until it warps. But the missile keeps coming, slower yet deadly. The closest CIWS fires a final continuous burst. Tracers meet the missile in one violent flash. It breaks apart into a glowing cloud, fragments raining harmlessly into the waves. A deep vibration rolls through the hull as the last threat disappears. Silence follows, not calm, but the stunned pause that comes after surviving what should not have been survivable. The radar picture clears, leaving the Ford floating in a moment of disbelief, the crew absorbing the simple truth. They're still here, still intact, still fighting. Around the formation, small pieces of debris and burning fuel drift on the waves, the only visible sign of how close the Pacific came to swallowing a U.S. carrier tonight. The sea settles into a tired calm, leaving drifting debris and faint ripples where the last missile fell. The Gerald R. Ford eases to a steady course, her deck scorched in a few spots but fully operational. Damage control teams move through compartments, checking sensors, sealing small ruptures, and confirming what everyone hopes to hear. The carrier took no direct hits. After facing more than 40 missiles and a coordinated ballistic strike, the result feels almost unreal. Around the formation, the escorts tighten back into position. Lake Champlain's launch cells glow with leftover heat, and Shiloh's crew reset systems pushed to their limits. Helicopters sweep outward, scanning for debris, submarines, or signs of another attack building beyond the horizon. But the screens stay clear. The assault meant to shatter the carrier group in one overwhelming strike has burned itself out. Inside CIC, tension fades into quiet pride. The layered defense held. EW teams jammed out confusing signals. F-35C kept the picture stitched together. Directed energy weapons burned down the drone swarm, and CIWS guns delivered when nothing else could. It wasn't luck. It was training, teamwork, and a fleet designed for exactly this moment. Strategically, the message is direct. China's attempt to corner the Ford in the eastern Spratlys instead showed that the US can absorb a complex multi-axis attack and stay in the fight. Allies in Tokyo, Manila, and Canberra will see it clearly, and so will Beijing. Power in the Pacific isn't shaped by rhetoric but by moments like this, when a carrier survives the kind of strike meant to end it. As dawn hints at the horizon, the ship feels steady again. The crew is tired but focused, ready for whatever follows another wave, a standoff, or a long, uneasy calm. And as the formation moves forward, one question hangs over the water. Does this victory stabilize the region or push tensions even higher? If you followed this battle to the end, press 1 if you think the US position is strengthened, or 9 if you believe China will answer with something even heavier.